Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Run It Back, the show where we try to get things right the second time. In today's episode, we're going to be going over a Premier Draft, best of one draft submitted by Black Canary herself, the Watcher in our AGL League. Today she went full 7-0, so perfect record. We're going to see what she did right and what we can learn from her. As we dive into Pack 1, Pick 1, there's a lot of really good cards here. Unfortunately, I don't think Judith is, even though I love Judith as a card, I don't think she really is it, but we see a lot of really good red and white cards. So Case of the Gateway Express is particularly good because it's a removal spell that can end up being an Anthem a little bit later in the game. We also see a Premier removal spell in Makeshift Binding as it gets rid of just about anything and gains your life. This is a good for the going longer style of white decks. We also see a Red Herring, very aggressive, very fast. Person of Interest plays particularly well with the go wide starter strategies. And then even something like Cold Case Crackers, very good in the blue decks. Case of the Pilfered Proof, very specific in the detective deck, but very powerful if you can get it off there. And then even like Griffnut Tracker and Sanguine Savior, these are really good cards. Leering Onlooker is a good card. And Vengeful Creep are very playful. Like, this is a great pack. This is a great pack overall. We see that Black Canary ends up taking the Case of the Gateway Express, and I think I really like this because it speculates on potentially getting any one of these three cards back, and with such a powerful pack here, I could see that. I could see getting us any one of these three cards back and being very happy to play it. So I love the Case of the Gateway Express as a Pack 1, Pick 1 in this instance. Moving on to Pack 1, Pick 2, we are greatly rewarded. There's all kinds of things here as well. Goodies in this draft. Maybe I need to sit at this table. We see a Long Goodbye, a Wisp Drinker Vampire. Buried in the Garden is great, but Novice Inspector, I think, is exactly what you want to follow up a Case of the Gateway Express. Notably, we also see a Person of Interest down here, which I don't really expect to wield in this pack, but if we really, really wanted to, we could end up sort of maxing out on that. Pack 1, Pick 3. Oh, this is really interesting. So if I'm looking at Case of the Gateway Express and I'm looking at these three cards, I really want to be in red-white. Novice Inspector also wants to be in red-white, and this Person of Interest here makes sense as well. Even the passing of the Lamplight Phoenix looks good for us. And then in Pack 1, Pick 3, like, my first thought is Lightning Helix. Let's go. I want a Lightning Helix. But Black Canary doesn't do that. Black Canary takes this Nervous Gardener, which is great because you could play it as a 2-mana 2/2 if you need it early. It also does fix for a little bit of a splash and goes well that way. But my first instinct here is Lightning Helix, and I would imagine this would be what you want. But maybe this is more of a green-white draft, and we'll see where it goes from here. Pack 1, Pick 4, we see some excellent choices here. Now, notably, as we take a look at the green cards, we see Topiary Panther, Hard-Hitting Questions, and Sample Collector. All three of these cards are better than both of these two red cards. So maybe I would have fallen into a bit of a trap, whereas, this Hard-Hitting Questions plays really well with your go-wide strategy in order to take down one thing for 1 mana while also being able to deploy threats on the same turn. Pack 1, Pick 5. We do see a Shock. We do see a Harry Jonesmith, so maybe this last pack just sort of wasn't for us. Notably, we're not seeing very many white cards coming around. Lots of everything else. But Escape Tunnel plays well. I mean, it allows you to get in. It also fixes your mana. I love this as a pickup here. I might have speculated on this Shock, and particularly myself in my draft, I would have had a Lightning Helix and a Shock, and we would have been fully in the red-white train. Pack 1, Pick 6. We do see a Person of Interest, which again plays well with the Case of the Gateway Express. I also see a Sanitation Automaton, but this is a little aggressive. Black Canary's in green. She very much should be taking this Rebel Belt Maverick. That's a great card. It plays really well with what we've got going on here, and I think overall we should be able to be very low to the ground, so to speak. Pack 1, Pick 7. Nothing here for us. If we were in red-white, we could take this Convenient Target, but even then, it's not super exciting. It's just a reasonable card. A second Escape Tunnel isn't really where I want to be right now, because this is a more aggressive strategy so far, but it does really set us up to be flexible moving into Pack 2 and 3, and I think that is good. Pack 1, Pick 8. I don't really love any of these cards. I could see a Due Diligence if we were more creature focused, but we've got 3 spells and only 2 creatures right now, so I can also understand passing this Due Diligence. Sanitation Automaton, safe pick, flexible pick, and that's very much what Black Canary is doing right now, is being flexible. Okay, so we did see both these wheel, and in Pack 1, Pick 9, Black Canary decides to go with the Red Herring. This is the more aggressive of the 2 picks, and I think I like that right now. I think that's fine. It does, unfortunately, sort of mean that our Lightning Helix and our Shock that are missing don't really play well if we end up in red-white, but overall, this is a good card, and there's nothing wrong with that. Pack 1, Pick 10. Really nothing here. We do see a Whispering Vampire, and it looks like Black Canary's taking that one mainly just because she has all creatures. Like, all of her creatures are 2 or less right now. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of a nombo with the Case of the Gateway Express, because once you flip this case and solve it, like, then things that enter the battlefield, like, they already have the 3 power if they were 2 before. So you might not be able to get the trigger off the Whispering Vampire, but you know, you kind of use these as an either or. Both of them are good. You don't necessarily need them both. If we were more focused on the sort of green-white, I do like a Pick Your Poison, and I don't hate having that early. Even an Undercover Crocodile is fine, but I think we could probably get one of these later. So it seems like a speculative pick on the Wisp-Drinker Vampire. Pack 1, pick 11, get a leg up is perfect. Very much what we want in a go-wide strategy as well. Pack 1, pick 12, we do see a Felonious Rage. I don't know if we're playing that card, but it is very reasonable to see. And then Pack 1, pick 13, we see if they went this way. That plays well with like some of the more fixers that we have. So overall, great pack. Pack 1, pick 2, we see a 10th District Hero. We only really know that we're going to be like one color right now. And I was going to say that's white, but maybe that's not even true. Now with this rare, I think it probably is pretty true. But notably, we also see things like Tunnel Tipster, Offender at Large, and Crowd Control Warden, all of which we can hope to wheel. Pack 1, pick 2, we see a Shadowy Backstreet, which is very reasonable on the splash for the Wisp-Drinker Vampire to kind of make that easy. I mean, I kind of also like a Topiary Panther, and then this Crowd Control Warden is really sort of looking nice. So I would have like looked at these, and maybe Black Canary did and decided to go on the fixing. I don't know if we really need this Wisp-Drinker Vampire right now. So we'll see where the rest of the pack and the draft goes. If we see a lot more black cards, then maybe this turns out to be like a really nice pick. Pack 2, pick 3, we see Case of the Locked Hothouse. Reading this card, I think is extremely powerful. Reading this card, I really like it. I think it's very good. I just don't know how if we're getting to 7 mana. Maybe if we're playing it, they went this way, that really helps out. Maybe if we're playing things like Flourishing Bloomkin, that really helps out as well. But I've had a lot where you get to 5 or 6 mana with this thing, and then you just never are able to solve it because you can't really close the door. But I think it's a very powerful card, and once we get it moving, I think creatures, lands, and enchantments off the top of the deck is pretty much everything we have outside of our couple of combat tricks. So this is great. Like the pick. Pack 2, pick 4. This is a good sign. A Buried in the Garden. We saw one earlier in Pack 2 and decided to go against it, but that's before we kind of knew what was going on now. So having this Buried in the Garden is great. Pack 2, pick 5. Not a whole lot here for us. You could take a Make Your Move, but Seasoned Consultant is just a good, reasonable draw. And if you end up going like 10th District Hero and Novice Inspector and Seasoned Consultant, like there's an aggro draw in here, even if you're not necessarily like an aggro deck. Pack 2, pick 6. We did pick up a Crowd Control Warden. I think that's great. I think in this deck you want a Warden over a Hazda Vigilante. Pack 2, pick 7. Okay, so now this is really interesting. We do see a Fuss Bother, and the Fuss side of Fuss really isn't that powerful for us right now. Even though we are playing the Sanitation Automaton, this Nervous Gardener is more of a 3-drop. You know, these other things don't necessarily always hit the board right away. And Loxodon Eavesdropper definitely kind of fills out a little bit, which is good. But I can't get wrong with Bother, particularly if we are planning on this Wisp-Drinker Vampire. Like, also nugging opponent for 3 drain, like that's super good. So this is a really interesting pick. I think it can be really either way between the Eavesdropper and the Fuss Bother. And seeing the Fuss Bother going is probably fine, I think. Pack 2, pick 8, we got the Make Your Move. This is likely a sideboard card, but I think it's good. Notably, we also could have picked up this Gravestone Strider because we're tempting maybe to splash a little black. We've got a Rebel Belt Maverick, and this Gravestone Strider helps with not only the splash, but also plays really well with like an Insidious Roots deck. Pack 2, pick 9, Public Thoroughfare. Like, we already have a lot of fixing. I don't know if we really necessarily need this Public Thoroughfare, and I do really like an Airtight Alibi. So, I think I probably would have taken the Alibi over the first Public Thoroughfare halfway through Pack 2, pick 9, but, you know, this is a marginal sort of change. Pack 2, pick 10, we see they went this way, probably not taking these black cards. Pack 2, pick 11, we got another Make Your Move on the wheel. Pack 2, pick 12, we got nothing, and Pack 2, pick 13, we got nothing again. Okay. Pack 3, pick 1. We see a rare Homicide Investigator that plays really well with the Wisp-Drinker Vampire and all of our little piddlers that sort of end up dying off at some point, turning them into clues is good. And I think it's by far and away the best card in the pack. Like, Vitu-Ghazi Inspector is good if we're more so in green-black. Shock is good, but we're not in that deck. Even Griffnot Tracker is fine, but not really where we want to be. Pack 2, pick 3, we see a second Wisp-Drinker Vampire, and at this point, all right, I'm finally officially sold. We can get in on the Wisp-Drinker Vampire train. Having one of these is good. Having two of these is busted. So hopefully we can get them both out on the field. Pack 3, pick 3. We see an Insight Source versus a Makeshift Binding, as well as a couple other green cards, which I don't think are nearly as powerful. And I think you're looking at these two. Having come off the heels of a Wisp-Drinker Vampire pick, I think your main thought is like, oh, I've got two of them now. I really need to go off. We need a high density of creatures power 2 or less, and you do. But also Makeshift Binding can be really important. Now, we only really have 2 removal spells, 3 I suppose, with the case of the Gateway Express, the Hard-Hitting Questions, and the Buried in the Garden. And it's really tight. Like, maybe you don't need much more than that, but you kind of maybe do need a little bit more than that. So one nice part about both of these cards is they do get cast off the top of your deck with the case of the Locked Hothouse. And I'm really sort of waffling between these two. I could probably be convinced with the Insight Source, but this Makeshift Binding is calling my name. Pack 3, pick 4, we have a World Spine Worm in the pack. Really disappointed we didn't end up picking that up with a case of Locked Hothouse. We absolutely could be casting this one. No, I'm just memeing. Rebel Belt Maverick is great. If we end up getting this one on the wheel, then I might bring it in off the sideboard every now and again. But Rebel Belt Maverick is cheap. It helps filter. It helps draw the right cards that we need to. And also ends up getting a 1/1 counter later on in the game. Pack 3, pick 5. We see an Absolving Lamassu. I think, in perfect draft hindsight, I think I would have preferred all the way back in Pack 2, pick 9, this Airtight Alibi and passing in the Public Thoroughfare, because later on, once we got this Lamassu, there's a Public Thoroughfare here that we could have taken. Now, of course, there's no way you know that, and you obviously have to make the best pick that you can, but again, in perfect draft hindsight, I think having one Public Thoroughfare and an Airtight Alibi is better than having one Public Thoroughfare and an Absolving Lamassu, which I just don't think is really a good card. Pack 3, pick 6, we see a second Crowd Control Warden. I think this is great. You could end up convincing me to take a Vengeful Creeper for the sideboard, but having another Crowd Control Warden I think is exactly what you want. Pack 3, pick 7. Ooh, we see a Killer Among Us. This is a very good card. It plays really well with the Crowd Control Wardens because they obviously do make 3 creatures, and then just getting a 4/4 and 2 1/1s out of a 5-drop is awesome. So this is a great pickup. Really happy to see that. Pack 3, pick 8. I love a Karlov Watchdog. I think that's particularly good for us as well. We've got a lot of go wide strategies, and so pumping them all up is great. Pack 3, pick 9. We see a Tracker. That's probably a sideboard card. Pack 3, pick 10. We do see a Dog Walker. I don't know if we're playing that main deck. You might be able to if you were running a little bit short, but I just don't think you need to. And the mana isn't as good. Like, you're not playing a mountain. You're already splashing on black, so having a flip for just white and needing to disguise it, not really where you want to be at, but interesting. Pack 3, pick 10, we do see another Nervous Gardener. Pack 3, pick 12, we kind of get a nothing. And then Pack 3, pick 13, we round up the trap with a Reasonable Doubt. Taking a look at the deck, we see a very concise strategy. It is a little bit of beats early, some fixing with this way in order to go with Wisp-Drinker Vampire, Killer Among Us, hitting hard with the Crowd Control Wardens, and then just outvaluing with Case of the Locked Hothouse. This is exactly the kind of deck that I want. It is splashing a bomb and a couple of good value cards. It is very good. I do see, unfortunately, we have to play a Make Your Move because we don't have a lot of removal. But there really wasn't a point in the draft where I'm like, this needs to be a removal spell, because as you can also see, our only other actual 3-drop that's not a disguised creature is this Insight Source, and I think that's also extremely important and very powerful. We could end up playing some of these They Went This Ways in order to make sure we can activate our Case of the Locked Hothouse, or maybe ramp out a Crowd Control Warden. Plus, it cycles with the Clue once you have enough mana, but overall, I don't necessarily think that this is really what that deck wants to be doing. You want to end up hitting the battlefield. Plus, there's lots of good artifacts and enchantments in the format, so this is great. I think this is a really great draft. I really appreciate Black Canary for sending it in. A little bit of a humble brag by sending in your 7-0 record one, but obviously you drafted well. You must have played well as well, and this deck looks exactly like the kind of deck that I want to be drafting every time I sit down. If you want to have your draft featured on Run It Back, make sure to send me an email at runitbackmtg@gmail.com, or send me a message on Discord with the 17 lands link. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.